People trying to say I'm only enemy. Got a cold with my dogs, can't get in between. I can give them life, no more energy. Amen. Amen.
Welcome in, everybody. We got Monday Night Football, Cowboys and Raiders, and we've had a string of just terrible primetime games. And I'm not talking about our bet slips. We didn't hit last night, but we've been good. But the games have just not been entertaining unless you've won money on them. Today, I'm hoping that changes, JJ. How are we feeling?
I mean, I hope there's a shootout. These defenses are not that good. I mean, especially the Cowboys. We ain't gonna talk about the Cowboys. You already know the Cowboys.
We're gonna do plenty of talking about the Cowboys. Don't you worry.
Yeah, but I mean, the Raiders, they might surprise some people here. That's kind of how I feel about them.
I hope so. I think this is one of those where people get so distracted with how bad the Cincinnati defense is that they don't realize how bad the Cowboys defense is. So we'll get into it. But first and foremost, let's start talking about the touchdown bets. And for those that tune in know, the first thing we always look at is the rate of touchdowns coming as rushing touchdowns. We get this from teamrankings.com. And it's very unlikely that teams don't score touchdowns. Even if you lose games by 30, you usually get 1 or 2 or 3 touchdowns in. So where are those touchdowns being funneled to? That's what we like to look at. And this is on the defensive side. So we'll start off with Dallas. And as we can see, they're allowing 33% of the touchdowns against them to be rushing touchdowns. On the other side of the ball, we can go look at where the Raiders rank, and they allow the 4th highest percentage of touchdowns against them to be rushing touchdowns. So against the Raiders, you want to target rushing touchdowns. Against the Cowboys, you can kind of take your pick. One thing that we can look at is where they've ranked in the last 3 games. And as you can see, 41.67%. It's not a low number. If that was on the season, that would rank in the top 10. So I'd target the rushing side of the ball for touchdowns for both of these teams. Now, JJ, let's talk about the run game for both teams because one of them's a lot better than the other. So I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about first.
We talk about the Cowboys.
We can talk about the Cowboys because, my God, every running back just dominates this Cowboys team. And on the other side of the ball, I don't know if you guys have heard of this man named Ashton Genty. His offensive line is bad, but Ashton's pretty damn good at football. So JJ, what are you expecting from him?
Yeah, I mean, this Cowboys defense, I looked at fantasy points, and the last 4 weeks, they're allowing the highest explosive rush rate in the league. So this is the perfect chance for Genty to just rip off a 100-plus yard rushing game here. I mean, all of his matchups have been pretty tough for Genty.
And brutal.
And I think you have some more information on that.
Yeah, so he started off the season with some tougher rushing matchups, had like a string of 2 or 3 good ones, and ever since then, I think his last 3 matchups have all been top 10 rushing defenses in both yards per carry and yards per game. So you look at like, oh, they've been passing more. Their pass rate over expected is rising. You think that's because Brock Bowers is back, which is a fair conclusion. But I also think they're just facing against passing funnels. Like the big explosive Brock Bowers game against the Jaguars a couple weeks ago. Obviously, he looked more healthy, but at the same time, the Jaguars are bad at defending the pass. They're really good at defending the run. So what's the logical thing to do? Pass the ball more. So I think Genty's usage is fine. Like his rush share is really good. And the games where they've had good rushing matchups, their rush rate over expected has been really high. So I think it's a game plan thing by the coaches. And with how bad this Dallas running defense is, granted their passing defense is also atrocious, I think I'm with you. I think we see a lot of Genty. And I'm looking at their recent games against running backs that have had at least 10 carries. Nothing crazy. DeMercado had 79 rush yards on 14 attempts. DeMercado should never be getting 79 rushing yards. I'm not going to lie. J.K. Dobbins, 111 rushing yards. Krosky Merritt struggled a little bit, had 33 rushing yards, but then Dowdle ripped 183. Breece Hall, 113. Josh Jacobs, 86. Like if you're facing against the Dallas Cowboys, you're probably having one of your best games this season if you're a starting running back. And I don't think we see anything differently from Genty here. I think his rush attempt line is 17.5. His rushing yard line is 65.5, somewhere around there. I think he's going to be getting more than 4 yards a carry here, as most running backs seem to be doing.
Yeah, I'm very high on him here.
I love it. And let's get to the other side of the ball because we have another very high usage running back in Javonte Williams. Miles Sanders is injured. Jaden Blue, we've seen that he's kind of out of the picture. The coaches are not that fond of him. So it's just Javonte Williams, nobody else. The issue is, like I said, one of these teams is very good at defending the run. The other one is very bad. And the Raiders are the good team. They're one of the better rushing defenses in the NFL. So Javonte Williams is going to get work. I'm not very confident in how efficient that work's going to look like. I don't know if you're seeing anything differently or have any extra nuggets there.
Yeah, I think when you just look at the Raiders' run defense, I mean, they're going to be stacking the box at probably the highest rate in the league. I think it's pretty close to around like 50%, which is like ridiculous. He's had some pretty favorable matchups. I mean, I think with him, it could honestly go either way for the over or the under. I think it's at like 75.5. But I think it's purely going to be a volume thing if he does end up going over.
Yeah, when you look at the running backs who've had, I'm going to put success in quotations against the Raiders, it's mainly been volume. Like 77 yards for J.K. Dobbins looks good, but 18 attempts, so like the 4.3 yards per carry isn't crazy. ETN 84 yards, but it took 22 attempts. Isaiah Pacheco and Brashard Smith both had 15 and 14 attempts just to get 57 and 39 yards. So it's not an efficiency thing. It is purely volume. I think they're allowing the fourth lowest yards per carry. Don't expect too much from the run game on that side of the ball. And it's not like the Cowboys want to run the ball. Like they want to run the ball, but they want to use Dak and CD and George Pickens. That's when their offense is at their best, is when things are clicking on that side. So I think this only favors more into the passing funnel that is the Cowboys offense. So let's start talking about the Cowboys passing offense. If that's where things are going to be funneled to, there's CeeDee Lamb, there's Jake Ferguson, there's George Pickens, and obviously Dak Prescott's the one throwing the ball. What's the spots that you're seeing in this one?
I think you got to look at George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb for sure. I think just because they cover 3 to single high, they're going to be able to beat that consistently. I mean, George Pickens himself, like he's had a great year beating cover 3. And I mean, historically, he's been very good against cover 3 with the Steelers as well. So, I mean, he'd be my first option. And then CeeDee Lamb just in the slot. I mean, CeeDee's going to be CeeDee. His line is set at 86.5 yards for a reason. I mean, I don't see why he can't hit that against this defense. I mean, you seen any other angles?
Nothing differently, but one thing I thought was interesting, at least is from the George Pickens side, is his usage hasn't really changed much since CeeDee Lamb got back. It didn't change much when CeeDee Lamb left either. I'm talking looks like he had 76 to 160 air yards in each game without CD. And the games since CD came back, 112, 69, and 90. Like those are still very good high volume numbers for a guy that's great at contested catches, can move with the ball, and wins on his routes. So he's open. Oh my God, don't understand when that happens with StreamYard, but I was like, what is he laughing at? But with George Pickens, if his line came down, like it was at 80 yards, 89 yards when CD was healthy. If it's come down to 65.5, but his usage has not changed, and now he gets a passing funnel matchup, I can't imagine why you wouldn't like George Pickens in this matchup. CeeDee Lamb, though, you can never bet against CeeDee Lamb. The best thing I ever did was to get him on my fantasy team, so I'm never missing out when I don't bet on him because I want to bet on him every week. I see 6.5 receptions, and I'm like, yeah, he's probably getting 10 targets again because he gets 10 targets every single week. So both of those guys I'm happy to target and kind of fade the run game for Dallas on that side. On the Raiders side, it gets a little bit more interesting. Not because the matchup isn't as good, but because Geno Smith is throwing them the football. it's hard to expect good things from that passing offense. But we've also seen Dallas's passing defense make very bad passing offenses look very, very good. So what's your expectation here? Is it the between the unstoppable force and the immovable object here? Or I guess the other way around, the very movable object and the very stoppable force.
I mean, I feel like it's got to be a tight end day here. I mean, Michael Mayer, we've been seeing his route share increase lately, and he has the last 2 weeks he has been one of the top guys against man coverage. And as we know, the Cowboys the last 3 weeks since CD came back against Washington, their man coverage rate has increased significantly.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, Michael Mayer, he's ran 44 routes overall, right? 60 routes for Brock Bowers. I mean, Michael Mayer he's getting there, right? As far as his route share, and I think he could be a really sneaky target here.
I do too. And I mean, even before the season, they were hyping up Michael Mayer for the longest time. For those that remember him as a prospect, he wasn't quite Brock Bowers as a prospect coming into the NFL, but like he was hyped up pretty highly as like a good weapon and a good tight end to target. So when they got both of them, I expected to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. I think that started to come alive recently. And I think in this matchup against the Cowboys, I'm kind of with you that we didn't, that was one player we didn't talk about at all before we started recording. So I'm really glad you
Yeah.
brought him up. His lines are low, like 25.5 receiving yards. Brock Bowers is clearly going to be the focal point for the defense. And I think Michael Mayer is going to have a lot of opportunity in this one, and what's clearly a very good matchup. I think we saw it last week too with Trey McBride only had 5 receptions against the Cowboys, but then Elijah Higgins had 3. I don't really think that many people bet on Elijah Higgins. Everybody bet on Trey McBride.
Yeah.
You were a lot happier if you bet on Elijah Higgins. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar here. One guy that I really wanted to target in this offense is Trey Tucker, because 1, the Cowboys are really bad against the outside. 2, the fact that they're switching more into man coverage for me generally points my attention to outside receivers, which is where Trey Tucker plays, and he plays like 100% of routes. Like he's on the field all the time. When I was first looking into this game, the thing that concerned me was his air yards per game is significantly down from the first few weeks of the season when he blew up. And I was worried that might be because of Brock Bowers. But when you look deeper, you realize the Raiders just stopped throwing it deep. Geno Smith has had 4 targets or 4 pass attempts of 20 plus air yards in the last 4 weeks or 3 weeks, one of the two. But it's way down. And Trey Tucker is their speed demon, field stretcher, down the field target. So now they finally get a team that you can target down the field with success, because my God, they're terrible at defending the deep ball. Their safeties look lost defending those routes. I think we could see the tide flip a little bit in terms of his usage, because I stopped thinking, oh, he's getting less usage, and I started thinking, oh, he's still doing the same thing. It's just the matchups weren't really there. The scheme wasn't there. I think they could game plan him in a lot more down the field and target him down the field in this one. So I really like Trey Tucker in this one. Longest reception, receiving yards, whatever you want, I'm completely game for it, because as bad as the Dallas team is overall defending, their safeties might be their weakest point in terms of defending the deep ball. They never look like they're in the right position. So big Trey Tucker fans today, big Michael Mayer fans. Brock Bowers is obviously going to be popular. I think his lines are probably where they should be in terms of betting standpoint. But like obviously, if it's fantasy, you're very excited to have Brock Bowers left for your Monday Night Football game if it's close, because it's Brock Bowers. And then you could target Gentry receiving. The Cowboys were a good running back receiving matchup for a little while. Since you mentioned the 3 weeks ago when they started going a lot more man coverage, the running backs haven't been putting up the same receiving numbers against them in that department. So that's where I stand on that side of the ball. So now let's get into what we call the Q&A when we do live, but now that we're recording, we get into we're going to target some player props, show you how we look at them on our site. And for those who are new, you can scan that QR code at the bottom right, and you can get access to all of this. This is something me and JJ built. It's not something we're paid to promote. We built this for you guys to have access to stats that you can't find anywhere else. So this is our way of showing you a bit of how to use it. And we're going to start off with CeeDee Lamb. We're looking at his 6.5 receptions, something he's over in every game this year, except one against Washington. And I mean, like we said, 10 targets every game, 12, 10, 8, 11, 13. It's just, he's Mr. Consistent, especially when Dak Prescott's playing. So this one's a little bit more straightforward. Obviously, you can filter for different coverages and things of that nature. But this one, a lot more straightforward. We can also get into good old Brock Bowers. Like we said, he was going to be pretty popular. The issue is at 6.5 receptions, you can see here, there's a lot of red. There's only one game where he went over this line. It was a great game. Probably his first truly healthy game. I will give him that, where he had 12 receptions. The issue I have with being like, oh, he was good in this game, he's back, is this was also the first, or one of the first games where it was a huge run funnel. The Jaguars have the second best rushing defense in terms of rushing yards per game. In terms of passing yards per game, they're 25th. So it's like we mentioned earlier in the video. If you're smart and you're facing the Jaguars team and you're game planning, you say, hey, they're really good against the run. They're really bad against the pass. We're just going to pass this shit ton. That's what they did. And Brock Bowers got 12 receptions. So it's too early to tell whether all this red is because he was healthy or he wasn't healthy and now he is and he just had a bad Denver game here, or if the red is more of what we're going to see in terms of how well defenses focus on him and how the Raiders game plan. Next, let's get into Geno Smith, because Lord knows his logs don't look that great. I'll take it back to the beginning. At this 233.5 pass yards, he's only over in 3 of 9 games. However, once you add Brock Bowers in the mix, 3 of 6, not bad. His misses against Denver, Chicago, LA. If you only filter those games for bad pass defenses, filters out, let's see, it filters out Denver. So it filters out the top 12 pass defenses, which the Cowboys rank second highest in passing yards per game. A lot of green, 280 yards in 3 of the 4 games, with the only miss being Chicago. And that's games with Brock Bowers. So we don't have him projected very high on this, but in terms of the process, I think it lines up a lot more to get for him to go over his lines here. Next up, we got Ashton Genty. And JJ mentioned, he hasn't had a lot of good matchups lately. If you look at his most recent games, 4th best in, this is rushing yards per game. Denver allowed the 4th least. Jacksonville allowed the 2nd least. Kansas City allows the 9th least. He had a game here against the Titans. That was a good matchup. But then right before that, Indiana, they're the 5th best defense. So you see a lot of red more recently. Those happen to be when Bowers got back. But if we filter out some of those bad matchups, we see, all right, he's over in 3 of the last 4. These first 2 are red, but obviously those are the first 2 games for a rookie. I'm willing to throw those out the window, and we can get the Kansas City and Indianapolis games out, and we see 75 and 138 yards here. We know the offensive line is bad, so we can also look at yards after contact per attempt. Dallas ranks 18th. Let's see. If we filter for teams that allow a lot, we see a lot of yards. It's pretty simple, in my opinion. So Genty should have a good game. George Pickens, we mentioned, his usage hasn't changed that much with CeeDee Lamb out. So even with games with CeeDee Lamb, if you remove week 1, which was literally the first game he got to play with CeeDee Lamb, he's over in every game. At 65.5 receiving yards, I don't see why he shouldn't do it again. The air yards, you can see right there, 112, 69, and 90 recently. Big George Pickens fans, especially when, he's getting targeted down the field. 2 deep targets of 15-plus air yards in every game this season. You really only need to connect on one of them, and you get a big chunk of that 65 yards taken care of. And the last player we wanted to go over was Trey Tucker, because if you only look at games where he has at least 1 deep target against a team that allows a lot of passing yards, 54 yards in all 3 games. So those are the guys we mainly wanted to target. And JJ, I believe it's time to talk about some parlays.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So the PrimeTime Parlay, the one that has just been absolutely printing this season. It's even though we target like plus 300, plus 500, it's beginning to become a surprise when we don't hit these. So here, without further ado, we got Dallas Cowboys plus 3.5. We teased them down a little bit because coming off the bye this season, teams are 15-3 on their teaser record. You get coming off a bye for the Cowboys on a Monday Night Football game. They have a huge rest advantage. Give us the plus 3.5. We needed 4 legs to get the boost here, so we added Brock Bowers 15 plus receiving yards. But Brock Bowers is obviously going to get 15 plus receiving yards. Don't worry about any real analysis for that. Genty, touchdown score. We talked about how the Cowboys have been significantly worse against running back touchdowns recently. And lastly, Ashton Genty, rushing yards. Sorry, he's had a lot of bad matchups lately. He finally gets a good one, and he's going to go crazy. That is plus 400 on DK. They let me put a full 100 on that. I always recommend using your boosts as much as they're allowing you to put, and that's what we're doing here. And we also got a Lotto for you, and this is a bit different than ones we've given you guys in the past. Instead of targeting our favorite props, we did a little trifecta of most passing yards, most rushing yards, and most receiving yards in a game. Geno Smith, most passing yards. We talked about with Brock Bowers in good matchups, his numbers look significantly better than we're accustomed to. And Lord knows this is a good matchup for him. Same with Genty in the running department. This is also a bad running matchup for the Cowboys offense. So it's good for one team and bad for the other team, and both of them are getting a lot of usage to one running back. We're going to take the running back in the good matchup. And CeeDee Lamb, most receiving yards. It's very easy to take CeeDee Lamb for most receiving yards when the number one receiver on the other side is Trey Tucker. The next man up is George Pickens is honestly who I'm more scared of than Brock Bowers in this one. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb. I'm taking CeeDee Lamb. That's plus 19.17 on FanDuel. Max me out at $10, so that's what we put on it. JJ, actually, before I let you sign things off, the link to auto-tail both of these is in the description below. Literally, all you have to do is click it. It'll take you to DraftKings or FanDuel, and all you have to do is put in how much you want on the bet slip and hit submit. So if you want to tail this, that's the easiest way to do that. Just go in the description. And make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss the next show. JJ, the floor is yours.
This game is funny because, two of my least favorite fan bases in all the NFL. But we're going to be fans of y'all today. Hopefully we get a Mike Bring bang at the end of this when it's all said and done.
It's coming. This is going to be a good night. After the last 7 games, primetime games have just been so bad. I think the NFL more than anybody needs this to be a good game. If they have to rig a game, it'll probably be this one. So let's rock. JJ, appreciate you as always. Appreciate everybody that's been watching, and we'll see you guys on the next show.